Hello. Good. Okay. So when I was trying to come up with a topic to talk about today, I figured like the best way to get everyone's attention was to come up with some sort of catchy title or some kind of interesting idea that grabbed everyone's attention, and I settled on this. Yeah. So we're going to start off strong. I'll get to it. Bear with me. We'll circle back. To start off with, I want to talk a little bit just about myself. I think it relates a little bit to our theme of like into the unknown. To start with, so that's me. That's me my senior year in high school, 12th grade. As you can see, I am a beacon of maturity. That is me holding a dissected cat, like Simba. Yeah. What you can't see is that as mature as I am, I actually took the brain of the cat out with my group and we put the heart where the brain is because we wanted to show our teacher that you can live with just feelings instead of logic. This is from my first year of teaching in New York City. As you can see, I matured quite a lot. That is me burning my lesson plan that I used during the interview to get my job. And this is me now. As you can see, it's a wonderful picture. They absolutely did not do me dirty with this picture. One of my students said that I looked like a pale skeleton with a small head. I see it. But yeah, so this is just nice introduction to sort of the transition from me being a very mature individual to being a more mature individual. Every year, the first question that I ask my students is, what do you think my favorite subject was? And if anyone knows, does anyone know what I teach here? Science. I teach science. Does anyone know what my favorite subject was in high school? It wasn't science. My favorite subject was English. I loved English. And I loved English for some reasons. I didn't really like writing essays necessarily, but I loved speaking, and I loved talking, and I loved presenting. It was fun, and it was difficult, but it was really interesting. And I liked getting people's reactions, kind of like I did. It was a really good ego boost. Thank you for that. What do you think my least favorite subject was? Science. It's good, right? It makes sense, right? Chemistry specifically was my least favorite subject. I hated it. It was really hard. It felt impossible. And part of that might have been just because maybe I didn't work as hard, maybe I didn't study enough. You know, there are a lot of things that I probably could have changed. But to me, science and chemistry specifically felt impossible. I just didn't understand any of it. If I can take you back to this progression a little bit, right around here, somewhere between finishing high school and starting my job as a teacher, I decided to become a teacher. And that's a whole other story that I could talk about some other time that is not at a TEDx event that's like 15 minutes. But I had to take a test in order to prove that I knew science and specifically chemistry really, really well. And that was really hard for me because I didn't know any chemistry and I didn't know any science, and that's really hard. And to be honest, I didn't know if I could even pass a chemistry test, let alone teach it. And that was just a very terrifying thought for me. So I almost quit, and I nearly didn't become a teacher. And if I had quit, then I wouldn't be standing here on the other side of where I was born. I wouldn't be teaching science. I wouldn't be talking to any of you, and I wouldn't know a single one of you, probably. And I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that. But I'll circle back to that because we did start off strong with the is humanity doomed part, and I kind of want to address that. I am a science teacher, so I am going to hit you with a little bit of science today. Around this time that I was supposed to be taking this test, I was self-studying and I was using a lot of YouTube. And if you've ever gone on YouTube and maybe you've wandered into some of these videos before, there's a channel called, if anyone knows how to pronounce this, I'd be pretty impressed. Don't hurt yourself. Don't hurt yourself. It's Kurzgesagt. Kurzgesagt is German for in a nutshell, and it translates roughly into like long story short. They do a lot of really good videos that kind of take really complicated topics, especially those in science, and they break them down and make them really easy to understand. They make them really interesting, and they tell a story. And I found some of these videos, and they didn't necessarily help me study like for my chemistry test specifically, but they did get me interested in something that I had never been interested in before. And that brings us to, what's called the Fermi paradox. And this is like the center of what I want to talk about today. So I will hit you with some science here. The Fermi paradox starts with this question: are we the only living things in our universe? And whatever idea you might have here, right? Like, let me hit you with a little bit of facts. You're going to have to trust me on it because I only have 10 to 12 minutes to talk about it. But the number of sun-like stars in the Milky Way galaxy, roughly 20 billion-ish, right? That's a large number. the number of stars that have Earth-like planets in a habitable zone, that means stars that have planets that are like temperature-wise close to Earth, of those 20 billion, about a fifth of them. That's still quite a large number, right? If you know how to do math, 20 divided by 5 is like 4. It's like 4 billion. And then if only 0.1% of those planets had life on them, you'd still wind up with about 1 million Earth-like planets just in the Milky Way galaxy, not counting any other galaxy in the universe at all. And if you've ever looked at the news or looked at a telescope, I mean, nobody's looking back at you waving, right? Where are the aliens is the question. And this is only at this very particular time. If you look at how old the universe is, the pink box there is how old the entire galaxy is as far as like the Big Bang to today. The dark blue box is how old the Milky Way galaxy is relative to the Big Bang. The light blue box is how old the Earth is, and humans don't even register on this particular graph. We are a very small sliver all the way at the edge here. So if you consider that, and all of the planets that could potentially harbor life, where are aliens? Where are living things? Where is anything? And we don't see anything. I do have an answer. My answer is I don't have an answer. And it's not just me that has no answer. It's everybody that has no answer. We have not figured out an answer to this question, obviously, because there are no aliens here today, I hope. There are a couple of theories, and I'm going to walk you through one of them. A very popular theory is called the Great Filter theory. The Great Filter is an unknown barrier that's really, really hard for life to overcome. And we don't know what these great filters are. For example, if you pretend climate change is a great filter, it's possible that some of these planets, either in the Milky Way galaxy or in another galaxy, also had climate change as a problem, right? Like keeping their planet alive. And it's possible that some of these planets didn't overcome this climate change problem and perished. It's possible that this happened many, many times over a long period of time. And it's possible that Earth is headed towards one of these great filters as well. And we might survive them and we might not survive them. And that's the idea behind what a great filter is. Now, there are two prevailing theories behind great filters. And we don't know what they are. Unknown. Either these great filters are behind us, which means we've passed them already. That means that it could just be really hard for life to exist in general. Maybe there's some kind of test that like humanity or Earth itself has like passed, and we've already done the hard part. And we might be the first living things in the entire galaxy. It might be that we're totally alone. The other part of this theory is that the great filters are ahead of us. And this is equally as scary, if not more scary, because that means there's some kind of test that maybe we have not gotten to yet, or some kind of problem that we have not been able to solve yet, but a problem that is ahead of us nonetheless. We might end up destroying ourselves or the planet that we live on or humanity as a whole if we're not careful. We might not be alone, but we might be headed towards a really great disaster. And this is kind of like where this concept comes in. If you don't know something, and as humans, we don't know an answer to this problem, but most people respond with like, that sure sounds terrible, or this is really hard, or I don't know this. And for most of my life, as far as science goes, I didn't care that much. I didn't need to know, I didn't want to know, I wasn't interested. But some of these videos like that I watched that kind of put me down this rabbit hole, I was so interested in finding out like, why don't we know? And I think that's like the other kind of response that you can have. Why don't we know the answer to this question? And I was kind of befuddled as to why like we as humans haven't figured this out. Like, why don't we know the answer to the question? And I came across this quote, the unknown shouldn't dissuade us, but persuade us. And does anyone know who said that quote? Me, I said it. I'm famous now. I said it today to all of you. So now you can quote me in your TED Talk. You're welcome. However, despite the existence of great filters, we don't know what they are. We don't know when they're coming. We don't know if we pass them or not pass them. There are still people that are fighting to change all of those things. For example, climate change. Younger generations are more aware of climate change than anyone else that's come before them. They're more active than people that have come before them. Social inequality. There are more people constantly tackling issues using online platforms and offline platforms to discuss issues involving race, gender, sexuality, and justice. That's happening more often than it was ever happening before. War and nuclear weapons. There are peace talks and summits, nuclear de-escalation, and a lot of things are happening more often than they were in previous years. Medicine and research. There's new technology. The life expectancy of humans is expected to go upwards for the next 40 years pretty consistently. There's no ceiling right now that we can see. All of these things are potential great filters, and they're things that we don't have the answers to. We don't know what the limits are. But there are still people that are fighting to discover those things and change those things, even if they don't know the answer. And when it comes down to what I think that you could do in the face of the unknown, I think that you could be scared. I think that you can be intimidated. I think that you could be disinterested to act. And I was for a very long time. I think that this accomplishes nothing. I think that it leads to nothing. And I think that if we're trying to get any sort of semblance of growth or get any closer to an answer, whether it's for you yourself or whether it's for us as a whole, I think that you need to do something different. I think that you need to jump into something new. And if you're interested in something, act on it. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You just have to be the most interested in order to make a change. And I think that's the only way for individuals and humans as a whole to grow forward, you know, or meet aliens, which would be kind of cool. So finally, this is me this year, and I would just kind of want to point out that, like, if it wasn't for me jumping into something that I didn't know, I wouldn't be here in front of you all. And I think that going into something that's very unknown is scary, but I can tell you it's the most rewarding thing that's ever come out of my life. And that's it. Thank you very much.